This is Chris Ruddy, and I love Gene Valentino's Grassroots Truth Cast. Make sure you're tuning in just like I do every day, every week, every minute.
8 years ago, we developed and launched the best bed sheets ever. Since then, you've all enjoyed the best sleep of your life. And to thank you all for your support, we're bringing you our bed sheets for the lowest price in MyPillow history. Get our seasonal flannel sheets for 50% off. They're nearly sold out, so get yours today before they're gone. Check out our new Percale line. Queen size only $39.98. King size only $49.98. And our famous Giza Dream bed sheets, queen size originally $139.96. Wait on it. Now only $59.98. King's just $10 more. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get huge discounts on all MyPillow bed sheets. And for a limited time, when you order $75 or more, your entire order ships absolutely free. We have very low quantities at these prices, so order now.
Hey, good morning, and good morning, Gene. How are you?
I'm doing great. You know, some people take one-a-day vitamins. I listen to Michael and Ted on WMXI.
Well, that's good, because I'll tell you something. People that listen to us are a lot smarter.
Well, they come away with something. You know, you brought up something earlier about Jim Croce, and that's true. He's a name. You and Ted were mentioning this is a legend from the past. But I started thinking during the break, there's a guy who got severely punished before he saw the end of his time for indecent exposure and some profanity. That would be considered mild to what the Biden administration allowed on the White House lawn with nudity and transgender exploitation on the grasses there. I'm offended to a level. What a difference a generation makes, right?
Right. You're exactly right. Okay, so before we go any further, the Velvet Hammer, our friend Gene Valentino, he's got some big news to tell us this morning. And, you know, we just feel lucky that such a guy, we're going to start, instead of calling him the Velvet Hammer, we're going to call him Mr. Big from now on. Tell us the story about you and Newsmax.
Well, I was invited up to New York. My wife and I were this past week. I had the privilege of being with Emma Reckenberg on Newsmax on the Friday morning show called National Review. And then on Saturday, I co-hosted on Newsmax for 2 hours with Rita Cosby. Rita Cosby came out of Fox News, had a short stint with NBC, ended up with Newsmax for at least 12 years, maybe 15 years. Had the privilege of meeting her and a lot of the folks that you see on the Newsmax lineup. I had the privilege of meeting Greg Kelly, who's one of the senior anchors and prominent guys in the evening slots. Greg was a former pilot out of NAS Pensacola here in Pensacola, Florida. And so, as you can imagine, we got quickly off journalism and got into a longer discussion about our aviation backgrounds right here in the Panhandle. Newsmax is a class act. Their political and social commentary is diverse, but it's reasoned and balanced. And I'm looking forward to providing guest appearances with them in the near future, as they've promised, and advancing along the pathway they've offered towards maybe a contributor and co-host with future shows on Newsmax.
That's awesome, Gene. Congratulations. I know that's, you know, you've done a lot in your life, but this is something I guess you wanted to do this. You wanted to follow sort of in your father's footsteps. And, you know, this is sort of a dream of yours.
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful that you were able to achieve this. And Newsmax, that's nothing to sneeze at. They're a big network. Lots of people watch Newsmax every day. And that'll be a lot of fun on top of it.
Yeah, worldwide, they're now in the top 10 as a media source, a news source. They've moved, and the reason why they have, Michael, which makes Newsmax unique, is, and this is the business side of me coming out. It's not any false alliance here, but Newsmax has done what the Green Bay Packers have done. Newsmax has allowed individuals like you and me to invest into their operation. Think of the major media outlets in the nation. Part of the cause of our problem, by the way, is the select few controlling the opinions of the many. It's the opposite of autocracy and dictatorship. It's allowing you and me, the grassroots citizens of this nation, to be able to step up and participate and invest now in news sources. How many other news sources out there can you align yourself with that are not owned by one or two big dudes at the top? BlackRock, ABC, some of the other big network outlets that have very few people, Jeff Bezos on the Washington Post, and I could go on. These people are controlling the messaging, and that's the opposite of what America wants. We want it's what our First Amendment addresses: free speech, autonomy, public access, the right to have free expression. It's gone too far when Kamala Harris mentioned on the news recently that she believes government ought to step in and clamp down on media, on the social media, Elon Musk in particular, for free speech when she doesn't like the messaging that she cannot control. Quite an interesting distinction about what we're going through right now. And some of our Gen Y and Gen Z folks coming out of school, I hope you've learned about the Constitution and the amendments to the Constitution, because it explicitly dictates that the freedoms you have are tied specifically to the expression of free speech you're entitled to. Not the expression of free speech that I want you to say, but it doesn't matter whether I like what you said or not, as long as it's decent and not slanderous or indecent in terms of anything sexual. As long as it's decent, you have a right to free expression. And I think the Biden administration is getting caught with their pants down by showing this double standard. Michael, it's part of a double standard that's far worse than we could have ever imagined. I mean, I'm getting tired of this. We remain focused that we can be unburdened by the passage of time.
Well,
Or I'd like to
from a
say,
hold on. I'm from a middle class family. That's the
I'd
answer
like to say again.
That's the answer to every question.
I'd like to say that I am unburdened by what has been.
That's right.
That we can see what is possible, unburdened by what has been through this passage of time. Would you say something about closing the border? Just
Right.
start there, for God's sake.
Well, you know what? Look, it amazes me how many people can be fooled by the glitz and the glamour, the Hollywood people, the national news media, everybody making this woman I mean, look, 6 weeks ago, nobody even liked her. They were worried about her being on the ticket with Biden because she was dragging the ticket down. And so, you got to wonder, what is wrong with people? Why would people actually sit there looking at this woman and thinking that she's going to be, she says her values haven't changed. Well, what in the world did she say she wanted to do on Project 2019?
There you go.
She wants to do away. And look, all of this stuff, she has it in her own words. We don't even have to go far to find it. You can go to the internet, you can find this, her speaking in her own words, telling you what she wants to do. And now, all of a sudden, everybody just, there's nothing to see here. Don't worry about that. She's going to do fine. Bernie Sanders said the quiet part out loud when he said, she's just doing what she's got to do to get elected.
That's right. Yeah. And you mentioned Project 2019. Her net worth then was $6.3 million. 2024, her net worth is $28 million since she's been with Joe Biden. Would someone tell me where she got that money? You don't have that kind of growth in net worth value in 3.5 years 4 years when you're doing nothing on the job over there? Who has she placated? What is going on with this Biden regime that has filled their pockets with more money? Whether Joe Biden stayed in office or not, you cannot tell me that there has been an orchestration by this select few elitist autocrats who are trying to use your tax dollars for their wealth, for their embellishment. This is whereas you've got a guy like Donald Trump who comes into the job as a businessman billionaire, and I don't know how much money he made since he was in office. I know he gave his salary away when he was president, but what else has happened to that poor man as we've seen in the news? We haven't even had the chance to talk about. I predict that there will be unrest when Donald Trump is elected, but I also predict it's the progression of the natural transformation back to normal with the institution of law enforcement at the state, federal, and local levels to bring us back to some sense of normalcy. I predict a mass exodus of these illegal migrants, which we will call aliens, because that's what the Constitution says they are, whether Kamala likes that term or not. They are illegal aliens, and they must go back to their homeland cooperatively or whether they want to or not. They must go back to their homeland, and they are not going to be part of an American system unless they do what your grandfather and my grandfather did to become legal immigrants through the process. A process, I don't care whether they like it or not. It's a process. Yes, it needs some reform, but it doesn't mean we abandon it and bring in millions of people, almost 20 million people, Michael, since Joe Biden's been in office. You're not going to tell me there are not thousands of terrorists in your neighborhood and mine nationwide that are poised, that are sleeper cells right now, and I fear a potential reaction on their part to hurt Americans and our American way of life, whether Donald Trump gets elected or not.
You know, the top two issues that every poll that comes out, top two issues, without doubt, economy and also the illegal immigration. Both of those things are the top two things that Americans are concerned with. And so when we listen to what Kamala Harris has to say, she never really addresses those top two things specifically. Now, she admits that they're problems, but it's problems they created. That's the whole crazy thing about this. She's running as an outsider, but she's actually an insider who was in charge of the border, who has been in charge of the economy. And what have we seen? We have seen prices go up like unbelievable. The prices have been going up. Everything is, I mean, I was looking at the price of something I bought about 3 years ago. I was going to get a new one. It had doubled in price. I mean, that's how much we've seen here. Yeah. So she's not doing anything about the economy because she's been there. She's not doing anything about the border. She totally ignored it. She's been to, you know, she's never really been to the border. She went one time, I think, just for show. But you know, what do people think is going to happen whenever she gets elected?
Well, it's funny you say it that way, Michael. Over my trip to New York this past week to Newsmax, I was speaking with some insiders who seem to know better. Allies of Kamala Harris do acknowledge that her tough stance on the border security alone is a strategic move just to appeal for votes in 2024's election. But if the truth be known, it's a temporary flash in the pan. Her opinion about the border's not changed. I'm told by insiders that it will remain open. Do you really think we have a nation much longer if this border remains open? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. We are out of time. Thank you so much, Gene, for joining us. Congratulations on your new gig with Newsmax. I'm so excited for it. Can't wait to see you on TV.
Oh, thank you, brother. We still love WMXI. I'll see you every Friday morning, folks.
Yeah, don't forget us small guys here in the radio market. Thank you, Gene. See you.
I don't forget where I come from.
Take care, buddy. Bye.
Throughout history, the spirit of patriotism has prevailed. The battles may have changed, but the values remain the same. Today, in 2024, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. For more than 10 years, Patriot Mobile has been committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service. It's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream. Because this year is not just any year, it's the most important year since our nation's founding. Choose a wireless carrier that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
Hi, friends. Gene Valentino from the Grassroots Truthcast. You've got to join us not only for the great shows and entertainment and guests, but you got to join us because our sponsorship is growing. And it would mean a lot to them, not to mention me, if you come on board. And the one we're featuring this week is Luis Sanchez from the Cigar Shop. He owns a company called La Tradicion Cubana. The Cigar Shop, Miami, Florida, since 1995. This Luis is really one heck of a guy. He's determined to manufacture cigars based on an unprecedented excellence in quality using old-fashioned Cuban methods. The cigar isn't always cheaper, but it is better. And if, like you're drinking a fine wine, you got to have a fine cigar, look for Luis Sanchez at the Cigar Shop. He helped me find a nice Connecticut wrapper with a Nicaraguan blend. And this cigar has become not only my enjoyment, but this cigar has also become my brand and my marketing tool. If you notice up close, we've got a little label he's put on there for me. And that's my website, genevalentino.com. It's at the Grassroots Truthcast. Now, here's the deal. You go to thecubanshop.com, find the cigar you want, and Luis will throw in the labels for free. But you got to tell him Gene sent you. Tell Luis Gene sent you. The labels are free. These are $50 to $100 values based on the count. And you can get this to become part of your branding experiment. I'm using this with my guests on the Grassroots Truthcasts. This could be your brand on your product, your service, anywhere in the world. Look for Luis Sanchez at thecubanshop.com. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy your smoke.